Hey y'all, it's me, Kevvie. Happy Pride! Yay, it's Pride Month. I recently made a video celebrating my favorite drag history texts, linked up in the thingy up there and in the description down below. And to celebrate Pride Month, I'm doing a follow-up to that video, this time looking at drag documentaries. I've watched dozens of drag documentaries over the years, and this will be a list of my favorite ones and the ones I think are the most historically significant. We're starting off with my favorite film on this list because it happens to be the earliest film as well. The very first drag documentary was The Queen in 1968. It documents the 1967 Miss All-American Camp Beauty pageant hosted by Flawless Sabrina. Now, this is a national drag pageant, meaning that each of the contestants had to first win their regional pageant in order to be eligible to compete for this national title. So all of them are strong competitors. Sadly, I don't know a lot of the identities of the queens because they aren't credited in the film. They might be listed online somewhere, I just haven't found them yet. But there are a few notable figures in here. First, the mother, Flawless Sabrina, who is already an established drag legend. There's also her ingenue, Harlow. But the queen who really took the spotlight in this film is Crystal LaBeija. She was Miss Manhattan and makes it to the top 5. Outraged by the final results, she storms off stage and has the most quotable tantrum in drag history. It is delicious. For a long-ass time, this film was unavailable. The only way to see it was a potato-quality bootleg here on YouTube. Fortunately, in honor of its 50th anniversary a couple years ago, it's been completely restored, so you can actually see what's happening now. It can be seen in all its glory on Netflix. Paris is Burning is the quintessential drag documentary, best known and most quotable film in drag history. It's about the Harlem Drag Balls in New York City in the 1980s. A ball is a queer event where, for one night, marginalized people can live their fantasies and walk the runway in various categories: realness, elegance, etc. Paris is Burning documents one of these balls, plus the people who competed in it. There are many iconic queer figures in this film. One is Pepa LaBeija, mother of the House of LaBeija. Part of ball culture, and drag culture more generally, is the drag house. It's kinda like a mentorship program. The mother of the house, an established queen, takes in young new talent, helps them to develop their skills for the ball, and gives them their house name to compete under. Quick, interesting connection. Pepa LaBeija was also in The Queen under her previous name, Emery. She met Crystal LaBeija while filming The Queen, and Crystal wound up becoming Pepper's drag mother and the founder of the House of LaBeija. Dorian Corey is another incredible figure in this film. So much grace and beauty and wisdom. Something interesting about her is that after she passed away, a trunk was found among her belongings, which contained a mummified corpse. As far as I know, they never identified who it was or how the person wound up in Dorian's possession. Shit. It's real. Yeah. Willie Ninja is also part of this documentary and is considered the father of Vogue. Vogue was a dance or movement style popular in drag balls that became a mainstream sensation when Madonna made a song about it. Paris is Burning is an iconic film, and for good reason, but I must warn you, it's quite tragic. It was filmed during the AIDS pandemic, and many of its stars died either while filming or shortly after. There's also plenty of transgender sex workers in this film, and not all of them make it to the end either. It isn't a film I watch frequently, and it's honestly been several years since I have watched it because it's just so raw and painful for me. It's an absolute must-watch, but you gotta be prepared going into it. One of the most famous drag queens who has ever lived, well before RuPaul, was Julian Eltinge, star of the silent film era, but I haven't seen any documentaries about him. That he's not who I'm talking about for real right now. The queen I'm really talking about is Divine. Divine was an incredible transgressive performer known as the filthiest woman alive. She made several vile, cult classic after midnight films with director John Waters. These films, in particular the earlier ones, are not for the faint of heart. Divine was also a disco legend, performing her hit disco songs all over the world. As a fat activist myself, Divine and her co-star Edith Massey are two of my biggest inspirations. These two wore things that had never before been acceptable on fat bodies, and they wore them proudly, and they looked good. They helped me to build up my confidence and to celebrate my body in wild and radical ways. The documentary I Am Divine is an excellent introduction to this legendary entertainer. You get to learn all about her childhood, behind the scenes of all of her films, as well as insight into the man who was underneath Divine, Glenn Harris Milstead. His is a beautiful story, cut tragically short, and it's one that I think all queer people and allies need to know about. Divine's films are filthy and trashy, inappropriate, and sometimes just flat out disgusting. They're certainly not for everybody. So the nice thing about this documentary is that you can get to know Divine even if her films don't cater to your sensibilities. The next film on my list, I honestly hadn't even seen until this weekend. I'd heard about it and knew it was culturally significant and worth including in this video, so making this video finally motivated me to sit down and watch it. I am so glad I did. Drag Time reminded me why I love drag. You know how sometimes you get disillusioned with a thing and start to lose that spark you had for it? I was kind of getting into that space recently, but Drag Time reignited that love and passion. This documentary travels the country, but it's focused mostly on New York, and it is packed with legends. Varla Jean Merman, former Miss Continental Candace Kane, Lip Synca Lady Bunny. There's a good amount of overlap between this and the queens featured in the Drag Queens of New York Illustrated Field Guide that I showed you in my last video. One of the great things about this film is that you get to actually experience their personalities and performance styles. You can only get so much of that from a textbook, but in the documentary, they really come to life. This film is very camp. I'm not sure if that's a term understood outside of the queer lexicon, but essentially, camp is a type of humor derived from the over-exaggerated, the cliche and gaudy. The camp sensibility is really popular in the queer community, and especially with drag queens. And the queens of this film are full of it. Camp, I mean. It's also got some Christmas tunes in it, meaning that this qualifies as a holiday film. My favorite part of this film was toward the end of it when they go to Atlanta and you get to see the goddess Raven, the fire queen of Atlanta, for nearly 15 years. Raven's signature performance involved twirling flaming batons and setting the stage on fire. And the Drag Time documentary blessed us with a recording of it. When I say watching this performance was a spiritual cleanse for me, I felt revitalized and refreshed and just full of joy. That alone makes this film essential viewing. This final documentary is a personal favorite of mine, about a person who is very close to my heart. Horror fans will definitely appreciate this as well, because it was produced by Clive Barker, creator of the Hellraiser franchise. This film is Jojo Baby. Oh, but first, you might be familiar with Club Kids from the movie Party Monster, but I should probably include the documentary about about club kids here as well, because I shouldn't just assume that people know what I'm talking about. Consider this an honorable mention. Basically, the club kids were a group of queer performance artists in New York City in the 90s. While it is considered a style of drag, it isn't concerned with female impersonation like more commonly recognized drag styles. Instead, it's about appearing strange and over the top, being the one person in the room that nobody can take their eyes off. The club kids gained notoriety in the nightclub scene and on the talk show circuit, but their reputation became tarnished when the founder of the club kids, Michael Alec, murdered somebody. At least he's dead now. So while all that shit was happening in New York, Chicago was developing its own club kid movement. You had Sal E and JJ, Silky Jumbo, even Fausto, my friend from the Feast of Fun podcast. But the Chicago club kid is Jojo Baby. Jojo Baby is a personal friend and has been a mainstay in the Chicago drag community since the 90s. This documentary is all about their life and their art, not just drag, but many art mediums, primarily puppets. Everybody loves puppets. Oh, fuck RuPaul. Yes. This documentary is a beautiful, reflective look at this influential figure in Chicago's queer history. Even if you're not familiar with drag or club kids or Chicago, this film is still worth a watch as an intimate look at this fascinating human being. If you have a hard time finding this documentary, there is a second Jojo Baby documentary produced by Bullet, which is under 15 minutes and free to watch on Vimeo. It obviously doesn't go as in-depth, but give it a watch and you'll see that this is somebody you want to know more about. A couple of these documentaries are available on Netflix or to rent on Amazon, but the majority are currently unavailable to watch on streaming platforms. I will have all the links I can find in the description below, and that will include some bootleg copies on YouTube. Drag history is the love of my life. And I really hope that after watching this, you'll go out and watch some of these films and feel that love for yourself. Let me know down below which of these you want to watch, or if you happen to know another drag documentary I should check out. Thank you all so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and if it pleases and sparkles, I'll see you in the next video. Mwah!